Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to. I don't have a title for this. I don't have a theme song. I really don't have anything except myself, my lovely face. But welcome to my weekly little Facebook chat. Hello to those checking in. David, my brother, likes to be first. Hello there. All right, and Nancy, great to see you. Come on in, Ann. All right. I'm back home, as you can see. There's my sister, Mary. All right. I'm back home, as you can see, in the house. I know. And there's Kaylee and Jim and Roberta. Man, that's nice. All right. My friend Linda and Richard Gibata watching. Great. Christy. Juan. Hello there, Juan. Okay. All right. Enough. I could read everybody, but hello, Louise. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Great. So last week, I almost feel like I have to apologize, not because I did it. I did the video, after my uncle's wake, although I did in the funeral home, if you remember. But I'm not going to apologize. But anyway, there's a lot of noise around there. A lot of my family and everyone were around, and so it was a little noisier than normal. And then I had those caskets behind me, for sale and everything. That's the room where they take people to sell them caskets and vaults and things like that. So, but it had really good lighting. That's why I used that room. So anyway, yeah, and I felt like last week was kind of, there really wasn't much substance to it. Not that I have substance every week to this, but just felt a little more disjointed than normal. But anyway, it was really good to be in West Virginia for my uncle's wake and funeral. I think that went really well. It was really good to honor him that way and to see many family members as well who gathered to do that as well. Hello there, Tony. Mangadang Gabi Po as well. I'm learning a little bit of Tagalog, but actually the things I know in almost every language are not the best words, so I can't really practice on you all. But hello there, Kathy Jones. Okay, so a couple things to share with you. First of all, I want to remind you that we have in the diocese, we have a podcast, and it's called Gaudium et Spes, after the statement from Vatican II of the same name, the Pastoral Constitution, Gaudium et Spes, which means the joys and hopes. So in that, I'll be doing a teaching every other week, every other episode, which is every 2 weeks. And then every other one, we will highlight someone from the diocese and kind of just tell their story or let them tell a story, which is really a neat thing. I think it's good for us in the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee just to highlight the many wonderful people that make up this local church. So today's episode, the one that was released today, is featuring Father Michael Hartley, who is pastor of St. Rita Church in Santa Rosa Beach. Father Michael tells a great story. He tells his vocation story, basically, how he came to embrace the faith, and then shortly after that, how he came to discern being a priest and then being a priest in our diocese. So it's a really neat story. I think a lot of people, when they hear our stories, and I'll tell you my vocation story tonight. I don't think I've ever done that. But I think when people imagine how we understood our vocation, that is to the religious life or the priesthood or diaconate. I think a lot of people think, there's angels or something, and we heard God's voice audibly or saw a vision and everything. Perhaps there are a few people who have that happen, but it didn't happen to me, nor did it happen to Father Michael, as you'll see. But he tells a very compelling story that sounds, kind of very normal. He went to college, and before that even was very involved in seeing with kind of having a good time in life and all of that, following his own passions and desires, and then came to embrace the faith because of the people around him in the Catholic Student Union there at school. And then because of that, he came to realize that he might be called to be a priest. And he followed that and was ordained several years ago. And so that's our second episode that's released now. The podcast can be found Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. Just look for Gaudium et Spes. or on our website, ptdiocese.org. You can find it there. And then in 2 weeks, I'll just give you a hint because I already did it. The third episode will feature me, and I give an exposition on the Apostles' Creed, and I'm really happy with it. Not because it was me, although I like to talk. I'm really pleased with what I learned and how I explained it in that episode. It's not released yet. That'll be in 2 weeks, but if you want to catch up, this is the second episode released now, Father Michael Hartley. Okay, great. I will. And so I figure since he told his story, I don't think I've ever told my story. Not that it's that interesting or anything, but it's kind of interesting on how I entered the seminary, how I became a priest. People ask me all the time how that happened. Um, some people here, many people here in the diocese know, maybe you know, how I became a bishop because I've told that story recently a lot. Just minding my own business, getting that phone call and being told that I was going to be Bishop of Pensacola-Tallahassee. But being a priest, that haven't shared that with a lot of people here, I think. But basically, I think I know I've shared with you how important it was to pray with my family every day. We prayed the rosary every day. We went to Mass, especially on Sundays and holy days of obligation, and sometimes throughout the week. And we just, my parents did a great job not hitting us over the head with the faith, but just making it, making it the norm by putting images, statues, crucifixes around the house, May altars in the month of May, and things like that, and talking about the religious nature of everything, all the holidays and everything we did. So I grew up in that great environment there, the religious environment, if you will. And now I remember this. I remember one day praying the rosary specifically. It wasn't a vision, it wasn't a voice. And my family thinks I'm crazy when I say this. They say, I didn't know this was happening. But don't listen to them. I like my version better. It was while we were praying the rosary. I remember, I think it was fourth grade, but all of a sudden I just had this sense that I could be a priest. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to be a priest, I need to be really holy. And then I prayed the rosary that night with such devotion, I think, and I was down like this with my little eyes closed and my fingers like this, my hands crossed, like this. And I think that's when some of my siblings were like, what is going on with Billy? I might have overdone it then, but I really remember that feeling, especially there was one day while praying the rosary that I could be a priest. And then, I went back to wanting to be a fireman, a doctor, something else, police officer. I really wanted to be those things just back and forth every year. But then I was still involved as an altar server, involved in our parish, our local parish, just a couple blocks away from the house, helping to volunteer there, even raking, doing things, yard work for the priests or brothers or sisters. We had priests, brothers, and sisters living there of Holy Cross, of the Congregation of Holy Cross. And my pop was a physician, and so often he would have some of the brothers or priests or sisters over to care for them, and it was just common for us to be around religious a lot. So then in high school, I mentioned to my great uncle, who was a Holy Cross priest, that I've thought about it. I thought maybe God might be calling me to do something, but we'll see. And he then contacted the vocations director who called me on the phone. So I like to say I literally got a calling. This priest called. I remember it was during the Super Bowl. Who calls during the Super Bowl? Who calls on a Sunday night? What priest would call someone a prospect on a Sunday night? Father Andre, he did. And some mom or dad, whoever answered the phone, said, Billy, there's a priest who wants to talk to you. And I'm like, we're watching a game. But I went over, I said, hello. And he said, hi, Billy, this is Father Andre. I know your uncle, Father Ed. He told me to call you because you might have a vocation. And I'm staring at the TV watching the game. And I'm like, yeah, can we talk about this some other time? And he said, sure. He said, come on down to campus anytime. My office is here. And blah. So I'm like, okay, great. Goodbye. And then I watched the game. But I did go down there, rode my bike to campus there at Notre Dame. And I met with him about every other month, I think, for a couple of years, starting my sophomore year. And when I was just beginning my senior year, then he said, I think you're ready. We have a college seminary. He gave me the tour already and everything. And he said, if you want to, give it a visit and check it out, I think you're ready to do this. In the meantime, I made sure that I was looking at other orders and our diocese as well, because I didn't want to get locked into one congregation, that is Holy Cross, which is what I knew all my life. So I was looking at the Franciscans and the Jesuits and the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend. But then I think in my heart I knew if I'm going to do this, it's going to be in the Congregation of Holy Cross. And sure enough, I applied, I got accepted, and I went to the seminary there at Notre Dame for the college seminary. Now, it's that scares some people. They think, wow, you knew at 18 years old that you were going to be a priest. I didn't even know my left hand from my right hand when I was 18. Well, I didn't know that I was going to be a priest, but I knew that it was time to really get the tools that I needed to give it a try. And so there at this place, even though it's right in the heart of campus, it's not like you go into this old building and the doors clank behind you and you're done. You're going to be a priest. It's a house right in the middle of campus, and there we have morning prayer, evening prayer, mass every day, spiritual direction, some formation meetings weekly, things like that. But basically, your job is your duty is to discern while you get a degree at Notre Dame. You have to get a minor in philosophy, but you can get a major in whatever you want. And so, and you can do other things. I went to football games. I participated in some intramural sports there on campus and things like that. And so during the course of those years, again, I would come to the end of each year and I'd say, I don't know if I'm going to be a priest or not. I'm still terrified of speaking in front of people. I don't know. That's not a good sign. But I do like to pray, and I like to imagine me leading prayer one day. So I'll stay. I'll stay another year. And my formators, my team said, we think this is right. Keep going. You're on the right track. And in the meantime, and during those years, we would have not only classes, but once a week, we would go to a hospital. I went to a detention center to work with juveniles, um, a center for developmentally disabled children, things like that. We would do little ministry assignments, and that's what I really loved. And, not even so much the school, because I'm not the best academic intellectual, but I loved the ministry placements. So that was enough. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And then my senior year, since I had been in that house for 3 years, they said, well, if you want another experience on campus and you want to be an RA in one of the dorms, you can do that. So I applied. I was an RA in one of the dorms at Notre Dame my senior year. But at the same time, I was still discerning, still joining that community for prayer every day and Mass. And then after that, that was the big decision. Now, I had to decide discern whether to go on to our novitiate. A novitiate for religious order is for religious order candidates, men and women. You spend 1 year or two studying your order's history, your constitutions, and entering deeply into prayer. It's kind of like a monastic year. And our novitiate is in Colorado Springs, outside of Colorado Springs, in the mountains, actually. It's a nice place up there. So I went there for a year and loved it. A lot of working with your hands, a lot of praying, a lot of silence. There I worked closely with a Holy Cross brother. And I remember discerning halfway through that year, I found my vocation. I'm going to be a Holy Cross brother. I'm terrified of speaking in front of people. I don't want to be a priest, but I want to be a religious order brother. And so I marched into the novice master's office and I said, I'm going to be a brother, Holy Cross brother. And he said, are you sure? I said, I think so, yeah. And he said, well, you can't switch in the middle of the novitiate, but stay on this track toward the priesthood. And I'd like you to go back and start theology at Notre Dame next year. And in that, if you still feel attracted to the vocation of the brotherhood, then absolutely you can switch and go into that society. So, okay, I was sure I was going to be a brother. Went back, took theology, did more ministry. I think I worked at the soup kitchen where I eventually would work for 7 years as director later. And again, I thought, all right, I'm still scared of speaking in front of people. I'm not sure about leading prayer or anything, but there's something in me. I want to do this. I think God is calling me to do this. And it continued first year, second year, third year in theology, so much so that at the end, it was time to discern final vows and ordination. And at that point, it wasn't this huge leap in the dark. At that point, I had made a series of yeses over and over and over again. And so discerning final vows and then ordination to the diaconate and later on to the priesthood was a small step. It was just kind of like, of course I'm going to do that. This is what I should do. And then I took final vows, was ordained a deacon the next day, served in the parish in Colorado Springs, and then came back 6 months later and was ordained a priest. Served there in Colorado Springs and then Notre Dame, Phoenix, Austin, and now here in Pensacola-Tallahassee. But I like to tell that story because I think a lot of people think, A, that we have a vision or we hear this voice all of a sudden, Bill, be a priest. that didn't happen. I listened for it. And sometimes I thought maybe I heard it. Sometimes I'd get really quiet in prayer and I'd be like, he'll be a priest. Wait, no, that was me. Wait, was it me? You know what I mean? I don't mean to make fun of it. I never heard that voice, never saw a vision. But it was through my ministry, through other people, through spiritual direction, and especially through prayer that I clearly heard God's voice in my heart, telling me, assuring me, confirming in me that I should be on this path. So I like to tell people that. And also, I like to tell people that it's not this leap in the dark. Even when someone is discerning going into the convent or religious life or the seminary, they're nervous. Obviously, everyone's nervous. People who get married are really anxious and nervous. They have a lot of questions. But for one entering formation, it's not you go into the convent and the doors close behind you and then you're fated to be a nun. That's it. You have no choice. You can't waver either way. You just go toward that path. Same thing with the priesthood, people think. But it's not. You go in there to get the tools you need to discern. And you're not alone. You have your classmates, you have formators, you have a spiritual director, you have a rector, you have people who do this. This is their ministry, this is their profession to help you to discern whether or not to be a religious, to be a priest or deacon or whatever. So there you go. Yeah, it's a series of small steps. It's funny, the night before final vows, I remember we had prayer, we had a nice grand celebration. My whole family was there and everything. And then it was time to go to bed. In the same little room, the little cell that I had when I was in the seminary, it was a small room, no bathroom, just a bed and a desk. And it was kind of funny. Everything kind of came all the way around to a circle. I was sleeping in that same bed then, 8 years later. And I remember looking up at the ceiling and thinking, wow, tomorrow I'm taking final vows and then I'll be ordained a deacon. Wow, I wonder if this is this the night that I have the dark night of the soul when I wrestle with God and all that? And should I, shouldn't I? And then I remember saying, yeah, no. And I went right to sleep because it was a series of small steps at that point. It wasn't this gritting your teeth, I'm going to do it. It was, of course, this is what I want to do. I was born to do this. So formation helped me to do that. Lastly, I just want to say that it helped me immensely to have family members, friends, priests, religious ask me to consider being a priest. Many people did, or they said, I think you'd be a great priest. Have you ever thought about it, Billy? Sister Leah in the first grade used to ask that all the time. I've had other religious ask me, seminarians would ask me as I got older, think you want to be a priest? I think you'd be a good priest. You ought to think about it. I tell people, every time you ask anyone, ask any priest or sister, why did you enter the convent or seminary? Most of the time they'll say, because someone asked, someone suggested it. And I have not found one person who is offended because someone has asked them. No one's like, can you believe Mrs. Johnson? She just, right out of the blue, she said I'd be a good priest. Unbelievable. I've never been so humiliated and angry. Nobody ever does that. They may be, if you say that to a young person, they may be not embarrassed, but just like, thank you. Yeah, okay, okay. But I guarantee you that will work on them. And if they do have a vocation, that will be an important step. They need to hear from other people that we want you to do this. We think you might be called to do this. Please consider doing this. So feel free to just ask. I know there's some people who ask every time they see a young person, they're like, you should be a nun. You should be a priest. You should be a nun. Well, maybe, but maybe we should put a little more discernment in it. Just look for good qualities there, like some sort of desire for holiness and leadership and things like that, maturity. And then feel free to ask someone or invite someone to think about it. Okay, great. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Thank you to everyone for your support and for watching and for your prayers for me and my ministry. People ask, how's it going? Things are going well. Life is a series of challenges, isn't it? One after the other. But I was just telling someone again today, you know what? It's going to be okay. No matter what happens, I really believe more and more in divine providence. It's going to work out. God will bring everything to completion somehow. It doesn't look like that sometimes when an emergency comes our way or a doubt or a fear or something like that. But I've learned, if I've learned nothing else over the last 4 years as a bishop, it's to trust in divine providence and to remember that it will be okay. Just I need to be attentive to God and the Holy Spirit and do what God wants me to do, and it will be okay. And so far, so good. This weekend, tomorrow I'm going to Connecticut to celebrate with the sisters, the apostles of the Sacred Heart, who serve in our diocese. Sister Margaret, and Sister Kirsten. They live together and serve here in our diocese. If you remember, a long time ago, more than a year ago, I did one of these videos at their house, and they were featured on there. But they're celebrating their jubilees. At least Sister Kirsten, her 50th, I believe, and maybe it's more, I'm not sure. And Sister Margaret Ann is celebrating her 60th, I believe. Don't quote me. And then the other Sister Margaret celebrated her Jubilee a few years ago, but we're going to be there together somewhere, Hartford, I think, or I'm not sure. There's another city, New Haven, maybe. I don't know. Another one that starts with an H. It's a small state, right? I think you can fit like 1,000 of them in Florida, so it's going to be easy to find them. I'll just go in the state and walk around. I'll find them. Anyway, so that's where I'll be this weekend. All right, have a great night, and thank you for joining me. Hope you're doing well. Please know that I pray for you every night. And speaking of prayer, I'll pray for you right now. Oh, good and gracious God, we ask you to bless us, bless all of your people. Give us the assurance of your presence and your grace in our lives. Help us to discern your will and give us the courage and strength to do it. Bless us, keep us safe, keep us ever mindful of your love and grace in our lives so that we may celebrate that, we may welcome it with great joy and share it with our brothers and sisters. Bless all who are watching, and through us bless our families and our friends. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, have a good night. God bless you. I did it again. Dang it. I did it again. Let's try that again. Take two. So, great to be with you. Okay, have a great night, and God bless you.